Hi there guys, I hope you're all doing well and that you're having an amazing and a pleasant time. So in this video here, this is the last video of the chapter nutrition, which is on carbohydrates, and I will also be talking about malnutrition, famine, and unequal distribution of food. All of that in detail. So let us start with our topic, which is carbohydrates. Now let's take this from the very top till the very bottom, as I'm going to talk about the basics, and as I move further I'm going to get into more and more detail that is required as per the syllabus. So carbohydrates are made from the elements carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Now this is very important that you understand that you're following that your carbohydrates are made up of the elements carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and they often ask about this in MCQ, so be mindful of this, okay? Right. The ratio of hydrogen to oxygen in carbohydrates is always 2:1. So whenever you see any formula for any carbohydrate and you simplify it, you should find the ratio of hydrogen to oxygen as 2:1 in its simplest form. It is needed for respiration as it is oxidized into energy and the waste products, carbon dioxide and water. So we know that carbohydrates or sugar is oxidized or broken down by oxygen into the energy that you need to perform your life processes and activities, and there are also a number of waste products or byproducts that are made, which are your usual carbon dioxide and water which is removed or excreted through urine, sweat, breath, and then the carbon dioxide, which is exhaled through your mouth or nose, both of which will also be studied in one of the future videos. It is broken down faster than fats despite the fact that fats give more energy, so athletes prefer to eat carbohydrates for a race. Now the thing to understand here is that carbohydrates are broken down faster than fats, which means that if you want to go for a race, then you should eat more carbohydrates than fats because you need energy in that race, and carbohydrates are broken down faster, so it is more convenient to eat carbohydrates. So 1 grams of fats should give you around 39 kilojoules of energy, and 1 grams of carbohydrates should give you around 16 to 17 to 18 kilojoules of energy. So although fats give you more energy, carbohydrates are more convenient and easy and efficient because they're broken down faster, and then they can be utilized by the body cells faster. Gives energy, as we discussed, and is also used to make a chemical called DNA, which is called deoxyribonucleic acid, found in the nucleus of every cell, and also makes a sugary substance called nectar in plants. Now this is where the main thing starts. There are 3 main types of carbohydrates, and let us discuss that in detail, okay? So this is very neat to keep your eyes open and have your ears ready because you need to understand this. So there are 3 types of carbohydrates, right? So first we have your monosaccharides, or also called your simple sugar. Now from just the name you can tell that this is the simplest form of sugar, and there are 3 main types of sugar that come under this category. The first one being glucose. As we all know that glucose is the simplest form of sugar that is absorbed by our bodies and used. Fructose and galactose, okay? So these are the 3 main types that come under this category, and just to give you a bit of a visualization, you see these dots here that I'm highlighting here. This is how they should look, as I've also written down here. Simplest and are absorbed in this particular form. Just to give you a bit of an extra information, glucose is used for respiration, fructose is found in fruits, and galactose is found in your milk. Now then comes the second type, called the disaccharides, also called the double sugar. Now this is getting a bit more complicated, as you can tell from the name. The 3 main types here, again, you need to memorize this: maltose, sucrose, and lactose. So these are the 3 main types of double sugar. So what happens is that, how are disaccharides formed? When two different monosaccharides combine together, you get a disaccharide or a double sugar. Just from the name, you can tell that when you get 2 monosaccharides right? When you get two of these, both which combine with one another, you should get your disaccharide. Okay. Okay, sorry about the cough, just getting a bit of a seasonal flu right here, so that's why I kind of coughed there. So anyways, so when you get when two monosaccharides combine together, you should get a disaccharide or a double sugar, just as you can tell from the name. And here are the types, and just to give you a visualization, this is one monosaccharide, right? I'll just call this N. This is the second monosaccharide. This here is the bond connecting them both together, forming your disaccharide. And just for your extra information, this bond is a glycosidic bond. This is not needed, but just for your general information or for your extra knowledge. Okay. Then comes your polysaccharides, and also called complex sugar. Now this is by far the most complex form, and here are the types: cellulose, glycogen, and starch. Now in this case here, this is your disaccharide, and disaccharide. And a polysaccharide is formed when one or more or several disaccharides combine together in a long chain. Now this whole thing here is a chain, right? It's written here, long chain. This is complex and is broken down, needs to be broken down before it can be absorbed by the body. So what happens is that here is how it is broken down. So first, your polysaccharide is broken down into your disaccharide, okay? And then your disaccharide is broken down into your monosaccharide. And when in this particular form, either in glucose, fructose, or galactose, it's then absorbed by the body, right? So remember that this here is in a long chain, and it is a number of disaccharides combined together with their own unique bond. Example is that cellulose is that sugar found in your cell wall. Glycogen is the stored form of sugar in mammals. So when you have excessive amounts of glucose in your blood, some of it is stored as glycogen in your liver. And then starch is the form of sugar, extra sugar that is stored in plants, and this is the form starch when there's excessive amounts of sugar not needed. So that amount is stored as starch in plants, mainly in the vacuum. Okay, so now moving on, we've discussed the functions for a carbohydrate, their composition, and some of the types, and you need to memorize the table that I just discussed previously. And now we're going to be talking about the breakdown of carbohydrates. So this is how carbohydrates are broken down. It's easy if I explain this to you because this is dealt with in past papers, and if I explain it in the class, then it's going to be easy for many of you out there. So the enzyme maltase, this is a type of enzyme, therefore highlighted, breaks down starch, which is a polysaccharide, into maltose, which is a disaccharide sugar. This is the equation: your starch broken down by maltase into maltose. But maltose is a disaccharide, it is a double sugar. It needs to be broken down into a simple sugar, a monosaccharide, before it can be absorbed by the body. So your enzyme amylase, which is another type of enzyme found in your saliva, breaks down maltose into glucose, and there you go, your glucose, which is your monosaccharide, has been achieved, right? So this is just a very easy, very basic, so just have a go through at this, okay? Now this is very important. This is your what? Test for reducing sugars, also called the Benedict solution. So there's a test called the Benedict solution, which actually tests for reducing sugars to identify reducing sugars, right? Reducing sugars are basically sugars that can reduce, are basically reducing agents. That's a bit of a detail, no need to go there. So the original color of this solution, so the Benedict solution is actually, the Benedict test is actually a solution, right? This here, the Benedict test is actually a solution, right? And this solution here is blue, right? It is blue. This is the original color, and if you want to get into more detail, it is made from an alkaline called sodium hydroxide or copper 2 sulfate. So it is a type of test which is used to test for the following reducing sugar. I'm going to repeat, following reducing sugar, which is glucose, galactose, fructose, lactose, maltose, and definitely not sucrose. This is why it's in red. Please take care of this, that the reducing sugars are used to test for the following reducing sugars, which are glucose, galactose, fructose, lactose, maltose, and not sucrose. To summarize, they are both a part of the polysaccharides and disaccharides, but you know sucrose is a part of the disaccharide, but we will not consider this in the test as it is not a reducing sugar, right? So just put a bit of a cross here to make it clear that this is not a reducing sugar. These are your reducing sugars, okay? Now just have a look at this picture. When there's no reducing sugar present, when you put a food sample in your Benedict's test or in that solution, and when you give it heat, right? So here's what happens. You should you would basically give heat to a beaker, and in the beaker just have this metal gauze here, right? You can directly heat glassware. So in this you should have your Benedict's solution, also called test, and maybe a food sample. Let's say it can be anything, right? Let's put that thing in there. So after having placed it here, this is your observation, right? This should be what you observe in the beaker, right? So if it's blue, which is the original color of the Benedict solution, it means there's nothing present. There is no reducing sugar, right? As it is saying here, none. If it turns green or either yellow, right? Green or either yellow, there may be traces of reducing sugar in there. And if it's orange or red, expect there to be a moderate amount. But if it's brick red means there's a large amount of reducing sugar. So remember these observations, have a look at the color as they are carried out in labs, and if you get the opportunity to carry this out yourself, great. If not, do search it up. You'll find many videos on YouTube about this. It's a very simple test, and I've given a brief description as to how it is carried out. And remember, this observation is taken from a lab itself. But the last thing of this video is to discuss about malnourishment. It's a very small thing, and it's not that much of a big thing either. So let's quickly finish this up. So malnourishment is the lack of proper nutrition, right? When I say lack of proper, wait 1 second, I think I just made a mistake. Yeah, that was my pen. Yeah, it is the lack of proper nutrition. When I say lack of proper nutrition, it can be either too little or too much. So whenever you hear the word malnutrition, it can be either too little or too much. Too little food or too much food means malnutrition. If you're eating a lot and you're overweight, I would say you're malnourished. And if you don't eat at all and you are very thin and that you're hungry, then I would still say that you are malnourished. And there are actually reasons why some people are overweight or obese, and why some people are thin, or you could say are actually suffering from hunger. That is because of unequal distribution of food. I'm just gonna underline this: unequal with the light colored pen. Unequal distribution of food. So what this means is that the distribution of food is not equal. To some parts of the world there may be more food, while to some other parts there may be less, and this therefore leads to a thing called famine, which is nothing but, describe my highlighter, which is nothing but the widespread scarcity of food. It means the distribution of food is not proper or equal around the globe, or you can say it is the lack of food. So famine means lack of food, right? There's not enough food. So climate change, these are some of the reasons, right? Let's have a little bit of an observation on these. The reasons behind famine, which is the lack of food across the globe, right? Climate change, yes, maybe if it doesn't rain for a year or so, you cannot grow crops when there's no water, right? It can also lead to droughts, and if there are droughts on the ground, then that particular ground cannot be used to grow crops, okay? Climate change or natural disasters, like if you're growing crops and maybe there's a thunderstorm, or maybe there's a tornado or hurricane, you'll have your crops destroyed. Or maybe man-made issues like war, or maybe a nuclear spillage. Like if there's war or a nuclear spillage, of course your crops are destroyed. So these are some of the things that can have a major impact on the crop outcome, right? On the amount of crop that you are growing. There's one other reason that I forgot to mention here. Just have a listen at this. It's overpopulation. Now, if there are too many people, and you cannot expect to feed every one of them. So that is also another reason why famine is there, which is the lack of food across the globe. or maybe in a particular space. So overpopulation is also a reason. When too many kids are born, you need to feed a lot of mouths, and if you don't have that much of land or that amount of seeds or water or resources present, then overpopulation can be a bit of a problem. Like if I give you an example, like there's a school that has a capacity of holding 30 children, but if suddenly the population of that area gets to 100 children, so out of that 100, the 30 will be equipped with their educational standards, but what about the 70? What will happen to them? And then they'll need to build more schools for them, right? And same goes here. Overpopulation is also a problem. So just another basic point, that wheat and rice are staples. Staples are something, foods that are necessary, that you must need. Like in many parts of the world, wheat and rice are staple, right? So obesity is the overeating, right? Overeating of food, and it can lead to coronary heart diseases, which can eventually cause a heart attack or heart failure, or maybe even other organ diseases like a liver failure and etc. Hunger is the lack of food, and this can cause death. So if you look at this picture here, this guy here that I'm shading here isn't getting enough from his plate, and there's this other guy who's eating a lot, right? This is the unequal distribution of food that I'm talking about, which needs to end. And how can we fix this? This is just a bit of a side thing to discuss. We should have more educational programs or campaigns to educate people about how they should eat their food wisely and how they can help others. Rich countries should give money or support the poor countries, such as the countries in Africa, to support them and aid them by giving them food resources, or better than this would be to educate them as to how they can grow their own crops by giving them the machinery, etc. Or you can also have maybe a type of lab opened up in which you can artificially grow food, and this is happening in many parts of the world. So there are many solutions out there. Have a look at them as well. Okay, so that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed my video, and do like, follow on Facebook, and like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. And for my Facebook viewers and YouTube viewers, share this with everyone, with as many people as you can, because this is content that needs to be shared, because it is absolutely free. And one other thing, this is for O levels, IGCSE, GCE, as they're all the same. Content on A levels will begin soon, right? And just be prepared for anything, because many great things are coming ahead of you by me. I will be making so many great content and will be doing so many things, so just be prepared. Well, that's it for today. That's it. So I hope you enjoyed it. See you next week.